Hey everyone, it's Alice, and today we're going to be breaking down the analytical writing question on the GRE. So if you're already familiar with the writing portion, then you should know that the writing portion is broken into two distinct parts. The first question is more of an open-ended question, and the second one is more of an analytical question. So the second question is all about how you can look at a logical argument and break it down. What you want to do when you start out is read the question carefully. It's going to be full of logical fallacies or assumptions. Now, the thing about all of the arguments that are used is that they're not necessarily wrong, and this might be the tricky part for you if you haven't done this before. But the thing is that you want to point out the things that could be wrong, not that they definitely are wrong. So, for example, if someone makes a claim that A leads to B, you can point out that there's no evidence for that, or that that direct relationship might be a bit sketchy. What you want to do is use an air of skepticism and not rejection. The easiest thing to do to improve this is actually just go over a lot of different questions. You'll start to see a lot of different patterns develop because the types of logical fallacies that are discussed in these questions are actually pretty similar. And to me, that's what makes this actually the easier question type. So in a couple of other videos, I'll actually try to break down step by step how you can think about all the different parts of a question. But for this one, it's just going to be kind of a more general overview of how to think about these questions when you try to answer them. My first tip is to keep everything text-based. This means that you have to recognize the assumptions that you yourself make when reading the question, and actually you can highlight these as potential logical fallacies to write about in your paper.
As I edit this video, I realize an example would be really helpful to illustrate my point. This is taken from the official GRE website, which says, "The state recently announced plans to clean up Mason River. Use of the river for water sports is therefore sure to increase." The assumption here is that cleaning the river is going to increase the people that do water sports on it. But there could be a lot of other reasons that people aren't doing water sports on the river, including some of those that I have on screen here.
Now again, remember, you're not saying that this is wrong. You're saying that this could be wrong, and that is the key difference. You can think about it almost like a peer review of a journal article, for example. You're really not looking at the specific things that the person is talking about. You're thinking more about the process of their logic. Another thing when you're talking about specific logical fallacies is a lot of times the author is going to claim that A equals B. For example, a policy in one county led to a decrease in crime, for example, and thus the same thing could happen in the county that this author lives in. However, the key is that there could be a lot of different factors because, let's face it, life is complex. And so in something like that, you can point out the fact that just because something worked in one place doesn't mean that it's going to work in another for a variety of factors. What you want to do is always just show that you're thinking critically. Does the evidence given lead to the correct conclusion? And more often than not, when you're talking about studies or claims written in these questions, the answer to that is going to be a resounding no. Now, there's a whole branch of statistics dedicated to laughing at people making assumptions like this, or confusing causation with correlation, saying things like an increased amount of ice cream consumed is related to an increased amount of drowning. Therefore, we should eat less ice cream so that less people will drown. In this example, you can say that a third variable, in this case, hot weather or the fact that it's summer, actually contributes to both things. Eating ice cream does not cause people to drown. And in this vein, you kind of want to be the devil's advocate. So just always be asking questions. And remember, you don't have to answer the questions that you pose. So the idea is just to identify potential things, potential places where you're gonna need more information. And essentially, all you have to do is call for more information or more sound logic, and that could support or deny the decision. Okay, so after you've picked a couple of different things that you think you could focus on, you can actually start writing your answer. Now, when you start to answer, a good rule of thumb is to use about 3 or 4 examples to point out places where the author could have improved their writing. Now, where does that number come from? To be honest, it's pretty arbitrary, but in terms of the time that you get and the space that you have to write, 3 or 4 examples shows that you not only know a variety of different logical fallacies, but you can clearly articulate an answer. So again, what you want to do is number 1, state your claim. Number 2, tell why it's possibly wrong, not that it is wrong necessarily. And 3, what you might need to do to actually come to that conclusion soundly. So there you have it. I know these are pretty general tips, but hopefully linked with some of the examples that I show you, and I'll link that playlist somewhere on the video or in the description below. You can see how that actually comes to play when you start writing your essays. If you're planning to take the GRE, make sure that you check out my other GRE videos, and let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you don't understand, have a question about, or that you want me to make another video on. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!